Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome, as always, to our coffee times to discuss horror movies. And today I'm here to talk to you about Orphan: First Kill.
It's coffee time!
Now, we do live in an era where there have been so many movies that have gotten sequels, prequels, reboots, remakes, but honestly, a movie that I would never expect that would have got like some sort of sequel or prequel was Orphan. I really enjoyed that movie, and I thought always that it was a very underrated thriller horror movie. It was just so well executed, well acted, and it had one of the best twists that I've ever seen in a horror movie. And the main actress, even though she was really young when she did that movie, she was absolutely fantastic. So I was a little bit skeptic and scared going into Orphan: First Kill. On the one side, I was really excited to see more of Esther and get to see her background. On the other hand, I was scared to see how they were going to approach this, since obviously the actress that played her in 2009 has grown because there is a difference of 13 years between the films. Orphan just felt like a standalone movie, so I felt like it didn't need anything else. And honestly, this prequel, I mean, it's nice to see Esther back, but was it needed? Maybe not. So today we're gonna be talking about Orphan: First Kill from 2022. Obviously, if you have not seen Orphan from 2009, this is going to spoil you the twist, because I'm gonna be talking about Esther's character, and so be warned that if you have not seen Orphan, this is going to spoil that movie for you. When it comes to Orphan: First Kill, the new movie is going to be spoiler free. Orphan: First Kill is a 2022 psychological horror film that serves as a prequel to the 2009 film Orphan, directed by William Brent Bell. It stars Isabel Fuhrman reprising her role from the previous film, Julia Stiles, Rossif Sutherland, Hiro Kanagawa, and Matthew Finlan. So honestly, I was a little bit disappointed with the beginning of the film, but at the same time, I really loved it. Now let me explain it. The thing is, when I heard the title, Orphan: First Kill, I thought that they were going to really go back in time and really portray Esther before she even made it to this mental institution, which is not the case. So it's not really her first kill, if you know what I mean. But I understand that they also couldn't go so much back in time because they already were struggling with the main character being already a 25-year-old woman. So in this prequel, we follow Esther as she is trying to escape an Estonian mental institution where she was committed for being such an aggressive person. So if you've watched Orphan, you know that Esther is not actually a kid. She is a 33-year-old woman. In this movie, she is, I believe, 31, because it takes place 2 years before Orphan. So she has this condition that she has some kind of a type of dwarfism, which makes her look way younger than she is, and this is something that she has been struggling with, but also at some point decided to use it to take advantage of people. So at the beginning of the film, we see Esther escaping this mental facility, and then she pretends to be this lost daughter from a family from the US that ends up taking her into the family. Now, the thing is, all of this you already know because you've obviously seen Orphan. So there is little basically new things that you are learning that are making you surprised, apart from a twist that comes later on. But for the most part, you already kind of know what you're gonna see when you get into this movie. They say that Orphan: First Kill draws from the 2012 documentary The Imposter, about a real-life case where a young-looking French man tried with surprising success to pass himself off as the long-lost son of an American family. Something that the first movie did really well is balancing the horror and the scares with the family drama, and it was really intense, not just in the horror, but also when it comes to the family relationships. Now, in Orphan: First Kill, the family that we get to meet where Esther goes to in the United States, They are a little bit more flat characters. They are lacking a little bit more of development. There is nothing too investing about them except for the mother, played by Julia Stiles, who was one of my favorite characters. So Furman and Stiles were my favorite, and I felt like they were such a good duo, and they almost, you know, made this movie great. Almost. So obviously the elephant in the room here is how the hell did they manage to make the actors still look young? Now, I am really thankful they didn't decide to go with CGI, which I believe would have been bad. So I'm glad that they tried to do it with practical Hollywood tricks. You know, probably some actors wearing like higher shoes, sometimes the perspective, they used a different actress when we would see Esther from the back. Like, they tried to kind of fake it, and also the makeup and other kind of things were trying to help to get you to see Esther as a kid. But I do think that a lot of times you are very much aware that she is older in this movie, which is a prequel, so it does pull you off of the movie sometimes, especially, you know, if you have just rewatched Orphan like I did. However, her performance as an actress is absolutely fantastic. She is incredible, and I love the character so much that I didn't care, let's say, like it didn't bother me so much, even though I was aware of it for the majority of the film. But I feel like in this second movie we actually get to root for Esther. In the first film, it is not until the reveal that you actually understand the whole thing. And now that we know who Esther is, what she's capable of, and what she's trying to achieve, now actually I find myself rooting for her. And another actress that for me is really underrated is Julia Stiles, and I loved how she approached her character and she went with it, and the dynamics between these two characters was fantastic and one of the best things of this movie. When it comes to the production, the visuals and all of that, you know, I'm not a fan of the way that they did everything. It was a little bit flat most of the time for me. It even at times was a little bit of cheap horror movie kind of thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not a really bad movie or anything like that, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first one. And the director of this film is responsible for Brahms, The Boy 2, which I didn't like at all, which explains certain things and decisions as well when it comes to the film. But I feel like for me, the one who takes the cake here, the one who wins, is the writer, because he had the challenge of bringing us a plot twist that would leave us speechless, because after the plot twist of the first film, what are you gonna do now? Like, how are you gonna surprise the audience now? Like that, it is a really hard task. And I have to say, there is a plot twist in this film toward the middle of it that I did not see coming, and I embraced it and I appreciated it and I loved it. And I love that they still managed to give the viewer a big plot twist, an unexpected thing that happened, that shocked the viewer and that changed the tone of the film. And it is from that point on that I started to love the movie even more. When it comes to the horror, the first film, I think it was more kind of on the creepy vibes, you know, more unsettling, a little bit more jump scary. And this one is more about the slasher. And it makes sense because you already know Esther, you already know what she's capable of, so let's show people how she kills. And I love that. I really like the beginning, you know, when she's escaping from this mental institution and all the kills there. And also later on, like, I really enjoyed the horror in the film. The thing is, as I've mentioned before, Esther is no longer the antagonist. She's now the protagonist of the film, which also changes things a little bit more. Instead of the audience seeing a child that is terrifying, we basically see a psychopath going for it and rooting for her. But also, the concept is a little bit silly because you already know that Esther is not a kid. You already know that she's actually a 30-something-year-old woman that is a sociopath and kills people. So it becomes a little bit of something silly sometimes. Some fighting scenes are really funny, but You know, I feel like the humor, even though at times might not have been intentional, it kind of worked. But it happened something similar to Don't Breathe 2, which the way that the main character was portrayed, you know, the audience stopped being scared of him. And it's something similar to what happened to Esther. She's no longer this, you know, antagonist. It's more of a just an anti-hero. When it comes to tension building, it's really hard, like I said, because you already know what happened. Because we discover what happened in Orphan. So there are not too many surprises that they could give us with that. But as I've mentioned as well, there's a really big plot twist that I've really appreciated. And that raised a little bit the bars when it comes to the tension. But you already know who's gonna die and who's gonna survive because you've already watched Orphan at this point. One thing that I really liked is that in the first film, in Orphan, we had this mother that was really traumatized. She was really a distressed woman that was just a victim of Esther's rage. And in this case, we have Julia Stiles taking the role of the mother, and her character is badass and I loved her. And she kind of has this beautiful relationship with Esther that I really enjoyed. And she is not this quiet mother that is gonna accept everything that Esther does to her. As for my final thoughts, I decided to give this movie a 3 out of 5. I don't think it was a bad movie per se, but it was also not perfect at all. And this is a movie that is kind of in between horror and camp. And sometimes the lines blur a little bit. It's also a little bit too relaxed to be considered a psychological horror. I don't think there was much tension or really a lot of mind games that you could say this is a full-on psychological horror. I would say it just recycled some things from the first film. It has some tropes as well. And like I said, there are some problems with this movie, but I feel like if you really loved Orphan, you should definitely give this one a chance, even if it's just to see Furman's performance reprising her role as Esther. It just doesn't have the same character depth, that same fear from the first film. And that first movie I really loved, and I really loved the twist and everything about that film. And this one just doesn't quite get there. So, you know, it was nice to see Esther again. It was nice to see a little bit more of her background, even though we don't get to see everything. And her performance was amazing, but don't expect a great horror movie. It is a good slasher though. It's a fun one. You're gonna have a good time. But yeah, a little bit disappointing. Alright guys, so let me know what you thought about Orphan First Kill if you already got the chance to go and see it. I hope that you enjoyed my spoiler-free review. Let me know what you thought maybe about Orphan as well. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Were you shocked with that first reveal from Orphan? Let's talk about it in the comments down below. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, for your support, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!